What's up, guys? This is going to be the full card breakdown for UFC 246, Conor versus Cowboy, coming up next Saturday, January the 18th. First card of 2020. Definitely looks like UFC is putting all their eggs in the main event basket with this one. Holm and Anthony Pettis also on the card, but we've definitely seen some more stacked pay-per-views than this in 2019. But I think UFC is capitalizing off of that drought, and I still think it'll be a successful pay-per-view. Definitely some good matchmaking, though. The hardcore fans will recognize the majority of these fighters. But let's get right into it. Sabina Mazo, Aldridge, first fight of the night. There's a couple ways I could see this going. Sabina Mazo, she has some good striking, good clinch work. Well-rounded fighter. I think in the future she is going to be a problem. And watching tape, I was impressed. Aldridge, I think she's going to look to make this a more grind-heavy fight, get in Sabina Mazo's face, walk her down, make her uncomfortable. I'm actually going to lean with Aldridge in this fight. But, I was impressed, like I said, with Mazo. So, more than likely a decision, a close one. Definitely no bet. Lines are really accurate on this one. Pick 'em. So, and that's what I'd call this fight. But again, I'm going to go with Aldridge by decision here, guys. Next up, we got Osborn, I'm not sure how it's pronounced. So, sorry if I butchered that. Taking on Brian Kelleher. So Osborn coming off of the Contender Series. More of a striker, he was taken down in some of the tape that I watched, but he did lock up a submission off his back, got a nice triangle win there in one of the fights that I watched. He's also going to have a massive reach advantage in this fight, something like 10 inches of reach, so that alone, even at 6 inches, it can be a massive advantage, especially for a striker. And also having that submission threat, definitely going to be a tough fight for Kelleher. Kelleher is a guy that I was high on, though. He has looked impressive in the past when he uses that pressure and walks his opponents down. He has power in his hands. He can definitely be a threat. But in this fight, with the advantages for Osborn, I have to lean towards him. I mean, that reach advantage alone is huge. So I'm going to go with Osborn here. Maybe by late finish, but possible decision here. Nevertheless, Osborn for the win. Tim Elliott, Askarov's next up. I haven't seen anybody on Elliott. Askarov's coming off that draw with Moreno that actually thought he lost. I wasn't overly impressed in that fight. Askarov's more of a grapple-heavy fighter. But it could be a good fight. I mean, Elliott coming off a loss as well to Figueiredo. Something happened in that fight that led up to a choke. I think he got eye-poked. I mean, I definitely picked Figueiredo to win that. I think Figueiredo's probably the top prospect in that division. But yeah, Elliott has good footwork, good movement, hard to get a hold of. Now, if you can get a hold of him and put him on his back, a lot of times it can be easy, to keep him there. He has been known to struggle to make it back to his feet. So if Askar can grind him out like that, I mean, potential path to victory. But I'm going to take Elliott here. Another close fight. I mean, the first 4 fights on the card are really close. No bet, but I'm going to go with Tim Elliott by decision. Likelihood of decision on that fight as well. Kamar and Justin Lete. This is another really interesting one. Kamar, another Contender Series fighter making his debut. And Justin Lete coming off of a loss, or two losses, I believe. One of the fights I want to talk about, he fought Rasik, and he did, get beat up in that fight. But Rasik didn't want that fight on the feet. He wanted it on the ground. He was taking down Lete. And Rasik was tagged with a couple jabs. So I think the fact that Rasik wanted it on the ground does say something. And Justin Lete, crisp jab, good boxing. Hasn't had a lot of impressive performances at light heavyweight. I mean, after he got blasted with the flying knee and got put out by Johnny Walker, I think that deflated a lot of people when it came to, Justin Lete. But I'm going to go with Lete in this fight just because I haven't seen anything from Kamar inside the octagon. He has a lot of power, though. I mean, if he comes out here and gets another quick knockout against Lete, he'll probably be somebody to look at in the future. But we haven't seen anything as far as cardio or how he fares against the highest level competition. Now, Justin Lete isn't going to be, as far as the 205-pound division goes, the highest level competition. But regardless, it will be a step up to his past fights. So I'm actually, like I said, going to go with Lete here by decision, and we'll see what Kamar is about in this fight. So next we got Chad Skelly, Grant Dawson. I'm leaning towards Dawson, guys, in this fight. I think he has the grind to get it done. He is relentless, and he is an up-and-coming, hungry fighter. Has some impressive wins. He's on a win streak. Chad Skelly, though, the only reason, I'm not overly confident with Dawson is just because, Skelly can pull out wins out of nowhere. He's really experienced. But I think Dawson's on his way up where Chad Skelly's on the decline here. So I'm going to go with Dawson by submission. Could be another really good fight here, though, guys. But yeah, moving on to the next, we got Nazare Haqparast and Drew Dober. I already talked about this one a few times. Nazare Haqparast, I have been impressed with him, and I'm going to go with him in this fight. Drew Dober, is a veteran, 30 professional fights. He's no joke. It is a good test for Nazare, but I feel like this is, the gatekeeper role for Dober. And if Nazare can get the W here, start getting him into some fights where he can become a contender. So I'm going to go with Nazare here, guys, by TKO. Next, we got Andre Fili and Sadiq Yusuf. Another, really interesting fight. Yusuf's got a lot of power in his hands. He's an up-and-comer. Definitely a guy to look for in the future. And he has had some impressive wins. So we'll have a quick look, actually, with Yusuf. So yeah, Mokhtarian was one where he just, lit him up and got him out of there. So Shaman Rise was an impressive win. Benitez as well. So he's on a tear, 5-fight win streak. But his opponent, Andre Fili, is being overlooked in this fight. Another guy with some really good experience and some good wins in the UFC. He also has a mutual win over Shaman Rise. Miles Jury is an impressive win as well. Dennis Bermudez, and then the GOAT there, Artem. But yeah, Michael Johnson split decision loss on there too. We'll throw some people off when it comes to betting. And I will be staying away from this fight when it comes to a bet for sure, because it's another one of those fights, so it can go either way. I'm going to go with Fili, though, in this one by decision. Yusuf has a lot of power. I just don't think he can throw with that power for a long period of time. And if Fili can, bring it into the later rounds and avoid the power, I think he has a good shot of outpointing Yusuf. So I'm going to go with Fili by decision. Next up, Macy Barber and Roxanne Mattaferry. I can't stand watching Roxanne Mattaferry fight, if I'm being honest. I do respect her. She's done a lot better than I thought she would in a bunch of fights and matchups that it looked like it was going to be, or it was put together to be a squash match, and she fared pretty well. But at the same time, a lot of her performances just look like desperation, hanging on for dear life, pitter-patter, just not entertaining, more frustrating than anything. And I hope Macy Barber gets it done by TKO early here. I'm not as high on Barber as some people are, but she did impress me in her last fight, and I have to go with her here. So I'm going to say Barber by TKO. The line is crazy. She's a massive favorite. But yeah, I'm going to go with her for the win. Next up, Anthony Pettis and Diego Ferreira. Another fight I talked about. I have Ferreira in the confident picks, but I will say the line's off on Anthony Pettis, right? I don't know if I mentioned that in the confident picks video. He should be at about 2-1, and he's at 3-1. A lot of times I do like to take advantage of those lines that are off, but I am high on Ferreira. Definitely couldn't recommend Ferreira for a straight bet with the numbers that he's at. So I did recommend for a parlay. But, you always got to be careful in a situation like this because of the line being off. But I wanted to include him because I think it is a bad matchup for Pettis. So I'm going to go with Diego Ferreira here by third round TKO. Next, we got Claudia Gedaliah and Alexa Grasso. Again, Claudia Gedaliah is a fighter that I was high on. I thought she was a beast at one point. She disappointed me with a couple performances. And I thought she lost her fight to Carla Esparza. And I had her winning that fight. Alexa Grasso, takedown defense worries me. But her striking game, she definitely is going to have the striking advantage in this fight. Gedaliah is probably going to have the power, but the technical ability and the speed is going to go to Grasso for sure. If she can keep this fight standing, she can get the job done. Also, if she can make Claudia Gedaliah work for those takedowns. So even if she is taken down, if she can make Claudia grind her against the cage for a bit to get that takedown and drain that cardio of Gedaliah, I think that she has a chance to pick it up in the later rounds as well. So I'm going to go with Grasso here by decision, but it's another coin flip. Some good matchmaking on this card. But yeah, I'll go with Grasso by decision. Next up, Alexei Olynyk and Maurice Greene. Alexei Olynyk, been around forever, 71 professional fights. So him and Overeem, just ton of fights on their records. I think they're close, within a couple fights of each other. And that record is no joke, right? 57, 13, and 1 for Olynyk. And he's slick with it. He can pull off a submission from anywhere, right? He really likes that Ezekiel choke. It's going to be hard to pull that off standing. What he likes to do sometimes is lock it up standing and then kind of pull guard and finish off the choke on the ground. We've seen him do that in the past. I think his height disadvantage here, so Maurice Greene's going to be the taller guy. I think that actually lends to Olynyk, helps him when it comes to getting those takedowns. I think a body lock against the cage, trip takedown, is something we might see. And I think if it hits the ground, it's going to be a wrap, right? If Maurice Greene gets taken down, I'm going to be, if you have a bet on Greene and he gets taken down, I mean, you might as well kiss that money goodbye. But, Greene here is going to be the younger guy. If he fights smart, he does have a reach advantage, definite striking advantage here as well. I mean, Olynyk will wing bombs, and when he connects, he can wobble opponents, and he goes for the kill. We saw that in the Overeem fight as well. Even though he lost that fight, he did clip Overeem a couple times, and when he did, he went for it. So, I definitely wouldn't be surprised to see Olynyk pick up a W here, but I'm actually going to go with Maurice Greene. He has a couple performances that were impressive, but then he has a couple that'll throw you off, right? And I don't know what version we're going to get here. I definitely think that, it's a toss-up fight here, 50-50. And a couple years back, actually, probably would have took Olynyk, but he's getting up there in age. He's basically old now. I'm going to check it out, how old he is. So he's 42. When fighters get into their 40s, it's just a question of when it's going to catch up and when that speed's going to completely go. Now, Olynyk, has never really been a threat with speed, so, not a big thing to worry about there. But I am going to go with Maurice Greene in this one, guys. Next up, Holm and Raquel Pennington, co-main event. Probably should have been Fora and Pettis in the co-main event spot. I don't know why these two are there. But I did put out a video on this earlier in the week, so I won't spend much time on it. I have Holm winning. If you want a more in-depth look at that fight, you can check that video out. Most likely by decision. I just think that if she fights smart and uses her boxing her kickboxing and her distance, I think she can, get a pretty comfortable decision here. But we'll have to see how it plays out. But I'm going to say Holm by decision. Next up, main event, Conor McGregor and Donald Cerrone. So we haven't seen Conor for a while, right? He definitely has something to prove here, and I feel his career's on the line. And that's a big reason why, I added him in the confident picks. I think he's going to be taking this fight really seriously. Probably trained his grappling pretty heavy. And, we definitely know he did leading up to the Khabib fight. Dylan Dennis, was a close training partner of his. And Dennis is a really nasty grappler. So I do think he's been working on that pretty heavily. Probably has a bunch of high-level wrestling going on right now. So I think my only issue is he has put on some size. So the cardio, especially in the late rounds, is something to think about. If it gets into the third and fourth round, it's going to be a sweat for sure. And Donald Cerrone has all the records. He's definitely not somebody to sleep on. I do respect his game. I just feel like he's getting up there in age. He's taking a ton of damage, doesn't do well against boxers. And Conor McGregor, he's going to be coming in here really hungry, looking to get a knockout. And I think he probably will tag Cerrone, sometime in the early rounds and put him away. But again, I don't count out Cerrone. I just think everything is lined up for Conor to get the W here. I think it's a cherry pick win by him and his camp, or a cherry picked opponent. And I think they know his career is riding on this. If he doesn't get the W here, who are they going to pair him up against in the next fight, right? So I'm going to take Conor here by knockout. I'm really excited for this fight. I think it's going to be, or has the potential to be, a really good fight. But in the end, I see Conor clipping him. And that's about it, guys. I will be putting out that strategies video. I didn't forget about that. It will be coming over the next couple of days, and it is a good one. So look out for it. And that's about it, guys. I appreciate you for watching. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do. and I'll see you in the next one.